Myself Tejas. My topic for our assignment presentation of Law of Crime 2 is criminal intimidation and insult. Many of you might have faced a situation where you committed an act that you were not legally bound to do. You only did that act because someone threatened you to do, otherwise he or she will cause harm to your reputation, body or property. But how many of you know that this act of threatening is an offense under the Indian Penal Code 1860? This is an offense of criminal intimidation that provided under Section 503 of IPC. According to the section, criminal intimidation occurs when an accused threatens the victim with the damage to its reputation, body or property or other individual in whom he has vested interest. The punishment for this offence is outlined in Section 506 of the IPC. What is criminal intimidation? Criminal intimidation is defined in Section 503 of the IPC as an offence committed in which an individual endangers or threatens another with harm to his person, reputation or property in order to compel the other individual to do an act that he is not bound by law to perform. The intimidator is the person who endangers the other. The accused may have used other words gesture to intimidate and harm the victim's body, property, reputation or other members of the family. Essential of criminal intimidation. The threat of the injury to the victim. Section 44 of the IPC defines injury as any damage whatsoever unlawfully induced to any individual in body, mind, reputation or property. Threatening can be done in the following ways: to cause injury to a person, to cause injury to his reputation, to cause injury to his property, to cause injury to another person or the reputation of anybody in whom the victim is interested. Intimidation to cause bodily harm to another. Intimidation to cause damage to his reputation, threatens to harm to his property, threatening to inflict harm to any other individual or reputation which the original person interest is involved. Intention at the time of the threat, threatening to cause alarm to an individual, threatening someone to do he is not legally obligated to do, threatening an individual to omit perform any act that is lawfully required to do. These are the conditions under the essential of intimidation. And analysis of the criminal intimidation. As we have seen, the main components of the section 503 are threats and the intent to cause harm. The threat must be communicated to the victim. The threat can be communicated verbally, in writing, or even through expressions. Besides that, if there isn't any intent to cause harm and the threat is insufficient, this requirement of the criminal intimidation might even be met if the threat frightens the complainant, and as a result, the threat to induce actual real physical harm is unnecessary. An intentional insult intended to cause a breach of peace. Section 504 of the IPC allows for another type of intimidation unlike Section 503. In this provision, no purpose of causing damage is required and no threat is required. Section 503 applies when someone intentionally insults and instigates him, for example, by using offensive language. The offender must be aware that his instigation may induce the victim to disrupt public order or commit an offense. For example, if the accused abused the victim in a way that seriously impacted the modesty of his mother or sister. Such conduct is punishable under IPC section 504. This, punish, this is punishable by imprisonment for up to 2 years with or without fine. Punishment for criminal intimidation. Under 506 of IPC, the punishments for the offences of criminal intimidation are as follows. For simple criminal intimidation, the first part of the section provides that if a person is convicted of the offence of the criminal intimidation, then their penalty would be up to 2 years of imprisonment, a fine, or both. The offence that falls under this part is non-cognizable, bailable, compoundable, and triable by any magistrate. And for hurt, grievous hurt or death of the person, this is the second part of the section provides that if the threat of the intimidator causes hurt, grievous hurt, or death to the person who is threatened, or damage to any property by fire, or he or she will be have faced a maximum of 7 years imprisonment, a fine, or both. The offences under this part are non-compoundable and can be tried by a magistrate of the first class. And the third is the threat is to impute chastity of caste to a woman. When a person threatens a woman with unchastity, the punishment has to be either imprisonment of any kind for a term that can last up to 7 years, or fine, or both. Case laws. In Doraisamy Iyer versus King Emperor 1924, in this case Doraisamy Iyer versus the Madras High Court held that the nature of the threat should be realistic in order to perform or cause harm to the victim. It was observed that the threat of divine punishment would not be taken into account under section 503 of IPC. Rajendra Dutt versus State of Haryana. In this case, it was stated that mere outbursts of the accused during the attack, indicating that the intended to kill the victim, were insufficient to hold that the act would fall under the ambit of section 506 of the IPC, because it could not be said that that he was involved in the criminal intimidation of the victim with the intent to cause death or grievous harm. This is especially applicable in situations where the damages are not severe and do not affect any vital parts of the victim's body. And third case is Vikram Johar versus State of Uttar Pradesh. In this case, the respondent reached the plaintiff's residence with two, 3 other random people, among who was carrying a pistol, and abused the plaintiff in filthy language and tried to attack him. When some neighbors reached, the respondent and other people surrounding him ran away. The Supreme Court determined that the aforementioned accusation is, if taken at face value, does not meet the requirements of section 504 and section 506 of the IPC. The deliberate insult should be served enough to cause an individual to break the public peace or commit another crime. The mere act of abusing someone in filthy or dirty language does not meet the requirements for offence of criminal intimidation under Article 503 of the IPC. Conclusion. The primary goal of IPC is to establish a legal framework for the cases to be tried and punishments to be imposed. It guarantees that the justice is served. It is frequently used to describe various offences known to humanity. One of the pillars of the IPC is the crime of criminal intimidation. uh, sorry it is frequently used to describe various offences known to humanity. One of the pillars of the IPC is the crime of the criminal intimidation. It is a type of preventive punishment in which the accused is penalized for the intimidating rather than committing the crime. It makes no difference whether or not the actual crime happened. A mere threat, on the other hand, does not constitute criminal intimidation. It must be made with the intent of alarming the individual threatened. It is relevant whether it has frightened the recipient of the that party that uh, is accused purpose to do so. Thank you.